Hello viewers, hope you're all well out there in YouTube land. So here we are, 2021, just got through the ridiculous year of 2020, and some places are pulling out of the coronavirus and others are not. But what's going to happen in 2021? There's a lot of bizarre things predicted for this year, and some of the things that caught my attention, or one of them in particular, was the idea of asteroids. And there was some article recently about a mission of NASA, actually, called the DART mission, and I'll just show you what I'm talking about. So here it is here. What this basically is a NASA spaceship intercepting or crashing into the asteroid, actually the moon of the asteroid known as Didymus. Didymus is an asteroid which is very large, and it has a small moonlet, and there is a mission that is on the books for NASA, which is asteroid impact and deflection, part of their asteroid impact and deflection assessment, and it's going to redirect this asteroid, which apparently is actually on its way, heading fairly close to Earth by 2022, apparently. So they're talking about the DART mission deploying this spaceship by July or something this year. And I thought the idea of asteroid impact, sort of resonates with me in a couple of ways. One of them is in Revelation, and I don't know whether you're familiar with Revelation chapter 6, but if you have a look here, Revelation chapter 6 relating to the seals, and go down to the sixth seal at verse 12. I watched as he opened the sixth seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red, and the stars in the sky fell to earth as figs drop from a fig tree when shaken by a strong wind. The heavens receded like a scroll being rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. Well, if you think of the devastating effect of an asteroid striking, which this fellow here, Nostradamus, predicted was going to happen this year. So his prediction is of an asteroid strike. This is kind of an artistic depiction of an asteroid impacting the Earth, going off. It looks like a massive atomic bomb, basically. And Nostradamus's prediction is that is going to happen this year. So hopefully it won't happen, but we'll have to wait and see. But as I said, with this redirection project on the books, obviously asteroids are a genuine threat to the Earth. And biblically speaking, this, what it's saying here, the sixth seal, does sound a lot to me like what an asteroid strike would. So, if you can imagine a great earthquake, well, obviously when a very large piece of rock hits, if it hit land, it would go off like an atomic bomb, or multiple atomic bombs, and that's going to obviously create, earth-shattering effects, probably trigger earthquakes. I wouldn't doubt that a massive asteroid impact would trigger off earthquakes, if it hit land. I'm not sure so much if it hit open water in the sea, whether that would result in an earthquake. I'm no expert by any means, but definitely if you imagine somebody throwing a rock into a pool of water, you get a massive splash, and you get a wave that goes out in all directions. So that would be like a tidal wave, an asteroid wave. It goes out in every direction. Goodness knows how big it would be. If you kind of magnify, the analogy of the rock hitting the water to the scale of a massive asteroid, Well, it's probably going to be a very large wave, hundreds of feet high, who knows, heading out in all directions. Whether that would cause an earthquake, I don't know. Maybe it would, but definitely I think if it hit the land, it would cause earthquakes. So that part of Revelation 6 verse 12, is very possible, a great earthquake. The sun turns black like sackcloth. Well, once again, if you imagine the dust and the smoke, that's created, scientists have postulated that the first ice age was as a result of a very large asteroid impact, and that there's a massive smoke or dust cloud that's created that blacks out the sky, and creates this ice age where there's no sunlight getting through, or very little sunlight getting through. So the massive explosion, the dirt and dust that's kicked up into the atmosphere I would suggest probably black out the light coming from the sun. And probably as it starts to clear over time, you may get some light filtration. So perhaps that's why Revelation 6 is talking about the moon sort of turning blood red. I've seen the partial eclipses of the moon, and there's something called a blood moon or whatever. We've had those events in the past, but not related to asteroid impacts, of course. But in this case, it's quite possible, I think, I'm speculating again, that the same sort of dust cloud effect would affect moonlight reflection, and possibly it would have a red colour to it because of asteroid dust in the atmosphere. The stars fell to the earth as figs drop from a fig tree when shaken by a strong wind. Well, we've all looked up in the night sky and seen meteorites. We call them shooting stars or falling stars, potentially. So the idea of smaller meteorites entering the atmosphere, burning up, having the effect of falling stars. So, I could see that happening, along with an asteroid strike as well, whether it happens before or after. But a lot of smaller, meteorites being around the bigger asteroid. So as they enter the atmosphere, you get this light display of multiple shooting stars in the sky. So the effect of it would be what the Bible's saying here. The stars in the sky fell to earth, so shooting stars falling to earth. The heavens receded like a scroll being rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. So this kind of bomb effect or earthquake effect, certainly it would cause widespread destruction and devastation, potentially flattening mountains, changing the whole face of the earth, like where continents and islands are located could be shifted around by a big enough asteroid strike. The very kind of map of the world as we know it today could be drastically affected by a big asteroid strike, such that certain land formations are completely obliterated and different, pieces of land are moved geographically around the planet. So that could certainly happen. It's an interpretation, obviously, but the parallels seem very striking to me. So it's just worth thinking about. We don't have a long life, really. There's many things that can happen to us. It seems as though, looking back from my childhood, that things are escalating. There is an escalation of events around the world. In accordance with Bible scriptures, we're seeing more and more disastrous things happening, and these things are happening more frequently, which is what the Bible foretells. It'd be like birth pains of a mother giving birth to a child. So, and as we know, The birth pains of a mother or the contractions of a mother having a child increase in frequency as the child gets closer to being born. So this is the analogy that the Bible uses, that as we reach the end of times, all these things that are happening in the world, natural disasters, wars, rumours of war, famines, plagues and things like that, the frequency with which these things are happening is becoming increasing in frequency, so leading up to a big disastrous event. Nobody knows exactly what the big disastrous event would be, but chances are it's to be something like a massive asteroid. I could certainly see that. And the one that's arriving in 2022, Didymus, is going to come in the morning, apparently. So for those people who are into doomsday stuff and, when will the earth end? Will it happen in the morning or the night? Potentially in the morning with a big boom. So just food for thought. So if you're a Christian, I'd be sort of praying about these things, being prepared, watching and waiting on the events that are happening around the world, because we don't want to be caught out, and not prepared for what's shaping up to be potentially a catastrophic end to civilization as we know it. Yeah, so I don't want to be negative, obviously, and scare people with this stuff. Certainly NASA's putting a lot of effort into, this kind of thing. They're working on solutions to try and direct asteroids away from Earth, and hence these missions. It's not just a fantasy, it's a factual thing. We can be threatened by large pieces of rock and junk floating around in space. It's a real threat, and we have to be aware of that. We have a very fragile existence here on this Earth. They talk about the dinosaurs, and they were certainly wiped out by such an event. So, God's plan. I believe actually the dinosaurs were like a pre-creation experiment. One of God's kind of pre-human experiments, that he actually created these megafauna animals before man, because he's creative and he does things like that. He was kind of creating monsters back then, and by the time he'd gotten over monsters, he basically threw a big rock in the pool, boom, blew them up, the Ice Age, and then started again. I mean, we get the book of Genesis, it doesn't tell us about prehistory and dinosaurs, but that's not to say that didn't happen, biblically speaking, or that it didn't happen in God's plan, or it wasn't a part of God's plan, or that God didn't create it. There's nothing to suggest that, only that we know the account of the beginning for humanity starts with this recreation or creation of the earth. We don't know all the details. There's a lot of mystery involved in this, but I'm confident that God is in control of everything. So look up to the skies and see what's going on, but look at the world around you and think carefully about the decisions you're going to make. Where are you going to spend eternity? Have you given your life to Jesus? Have you made a commitment? Have you believed in your heart, confessed with your mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord? If not, give it a go. You've only got everything to gain and nothing to lose. So with that thought, farewell, God bless.